Hello, my name is Todd Thielen, and this is the Academia podcast. It's the first one that we've ever done, and excited to launch it and bring it to you. You may find the video format on YouTube, as well as Rumble and BitChute. And then you can also find the audio versions over at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the good ones. So we are excited to bring to you something new for the year. It's a new area of territory that I'm not really used to doing, but I have a lot that I'd like to cover, and we're going to just try to plug away at some different concepts and some different things that have been on my mind in an organized format, and I will be delivering these radio shows, these podcasts, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday throughout the year. As you can kind of see if you are watching the video version, the video is a little grainy, and maybe the sound quality is probably not as good as you probably have heard with other podcasts, but we are taking an approach this year called the Ready, Fire, Aim approach instead of Ready, Aim, Fire. There are a lot of different reasons why time to start is right now, instead of waiting until you have all the right equipment, waiting until the day's right, waiting until you're fully prepared. Sometimes you just have to begin, and you have to steer the course as the ship is going. And I just want to encourage everyone out there, if that's something that is on your heart as well, and you've been meaning to start something as well, then the time to do it is right now. There's never been a period in history than right now and be able to do things like what we're doing right now. Start your own show. So, what is this podcast going to be about? Today is not going to be a formal show. I'm not going to really cover any type of content in depth, but what I'm going to be doing is kind of previewing what it is that I will be doing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with you. If you don't know, this podcast is generally going to be aimed to parents of homeschooled children. And maybe it's going to be prospective homeschooled children. Maybe your children are in school right now, and during the last year or so, you've seen changes in your children's education and the way how it's been set up and organized, especially with the current changes that have been made with COVID. As well as other types of things that you've seen, whether your children have been, their school's been completely online, or if it's been reopened to be in person, or if they've been doing hybrid models. I would like to offer some type of dialogue as to maybe some of the benefits and maybe some of the setbacks and some of the realistic things that you'd be facing if that is something that you wanted to do. If homeschooling was an option that you wanted to consider, then consider me your colleague for the year. Consider me someone that will champion you and figuring out if that's a best fit for your child. You may wonder, do I have kids that are homeschooled? Well, I do have a daughter that's going to be entering kindergarten this year. It's hard to believe. I remember she was just born. It seemed like yesterday. But more than that, I'll be exploring some of my background as well as the podcast continue and move on. But I do have some experience designing curriculums for kids that maybe if they were underprivileged, or kids if they were in a different type of setting that you normally would expect. So it's something that I do have education, and I do have the experience to kind of create an a la carte type of customized curriculum for kids, whether they're on IEPs, individual education plans, or if they're just something that you want to do on your own, and maybe there's certain components of different types of plans that you like. There's very much an option for you out there if that's something that you want to do. And more than that, I'm going to be covering a lot of other type of topics as well. On a typical radio show, what you're probably going to see is I'm going to probably grab one or two pieces of articles that you see in the news in related to schools or education, and to just kind of give my 2 cents about what's going on and how to interpret it in today's climate politically. Second is creating your own curriculum. I already touched on this a little bit, but I will give you some tools and how to create your own curriculum for your own kids. there's a lot of different things that go into that, and it breaks down with a lot of things to consider. Some of these is just knowing how to stay compliant within your local school boards, not school boards, your local superintendent's expectations. Things like that, how it compares to other types of peers and what they're learning in terms of their benchmarks with their public schooling. There's some other things as well. Maybe you just want to explore a little bit more about what it is that you believe as a person, or maybe you're a little rusty with the tools that you have. It's been a while since a lot of us have been in school, and so a lot of things have changed. Instead of just giving them a different curriculum, whether it's online or you're offering textbooks to them, we're not just facilitators to their education. We are the ones. We have to be the experts. We have to be the masters, and we have to find out what it is we believe in and how we're going to deliver it to them in a developmentally appropriate way. So another thing that we'll be talking about is the education on your child or adolescent's development, where they're at, finding out a way how to approach this the most appropriate way. I already said the common benchmarks and creating your own curriculum. But one thing that I'll also offer as well, some basic life coaching, just how to tackle some of your goals, tackle some of your dreams. I know that in order for you to homeschool properly, or if you're going to be an entrepreneur, in order to manage a business well, you got to learn how to manage yourself well. In order to manage a family well, you have to learn how to manage yourself well. So we're going to be covering a little bit, even today here, some different areas of our lives and how we can set some vision for the year, set some goals for the year. And then more than that, just basic life coaching. And what I mean by basic is I'm not a licensed psychologist or a therapist, but I do have experience in ministry. I was a youth pastor for several years in Alaska, and I do believe I have some tools just to help with some general life guidance and life coaching skills as well. And then I'll be delivering just some things in my own style. I hope to entertain here as well. I hope to be lighthearted in the issues on the matter as we kind of take a dive into some of the stuff. But my own style, everyone has a slant to teach. Everyone has a slant they prefer when learning. I'm not going to, digest Marxist types of economics very well, or a communist type of political philosophy. I'm going to tend to side more with an Austrian economic type of slant, and something that based more off free markets, and something that's more based on capitalism and the Constitution, things that you side on, that you see here today. So I definitely take a conservative approach. I take a libertarian approach. I am a Christian. I favor liberty, Austrian economics, and maybe you don't know where you stand on economics. We're going to jump in on a lot of that this year. And I'm a millennial, so I believe that if you want to teach your kid to play Tetris and use it in their curriculum, you can do that. It helps expand their spatial and temporal reasoning, and you can justify just about anything that you're giving your kids in their curriculum, because one day you might get a knock on your door, and it's the superintendent or one of his lackeys, and they want to know some proof, like, hey, why aren't your kids in school? Are they truant, or are you actually teaching them? And you have a stack of paperwork that says, here's what I'm teaching them, here you go, or here's a link, shows a record of everything that my kid's learning. And I'll kind of help you keep the compliance issues up to date, just knowing that there's laws that are always changing, and what we need to do as parents to help keep ourselves with the best resources possible and keeping the best records possible in order to keep Uncle Sam at bay. Because the ultimate issue behind all this is to be free. To be free as a parent, and for your kids, the greatest legacy you have, for them to have an inheritance of a great education. For one, I would not trust a public school teacher. And who knows, maybe in the 90s it was different. I didn't see a lot of slant, but when I did some interning, did some partnering with different teachers in the school, the bias is a little bit more easier to spot now, especially with the type of funding that's happening. And, there's an old adage that says, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And so we got to look at who's writing these textbooks, where's the funding coming from, because there's an agenda behind it all. And I just don't think it's worth it sending my kids to public school when they could learn. It doesn't have to just be a one-sided approach. I definitely plan on teaching my kids the principles and the basics of Marxism and communism as well, only because they deserve to have a well-rounded approach. Just because I believe in free market economics doesn't mean that I'm not going to teach my kids everything that there is to learn. And ultimately, they're the ones that are going to have to make their minds up. I'll definitely tell them why I believe what I do and what led to the shaping and the foundation of that education that I have. But ultimately, it is up to them. And I don't believe in teaching to the test. But ultimately, in the state of Minnesota, you have to have your kids take a test every year. And if you think about it as hub to a wheel with spokes going out to different areas of knowledge, you could grasp things out here for history or English or mathematics. But what you're doing is that these areas aren't connecting. And one thing that you can do as a teacher is you don't just have to teach to the test to get certain answers for funding for the next year. What you can do is that you could teach above the test, and you could have them at a third grade level while they're in first grade. I don't think that's hard to do. One thing that I did with my daughter this year is, I had her listen to some audiobooks of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I had her listen to The Hobbit. Definitely you wouldn't see that as an age-appropriate type of book for a 4-year-old, but she understands character development. She understands the general arc of a narrative storyline, and she's 4 years old. It's very much possible to be able to teach these things to kids. And we're going to go over more of that stuff as time goes on, but this is just a preview of what we're going over. So one thing that I wanted to get into is my own vision for 2021. I hope that you have one. If not, it's still January. Today's January 1st. I would suggest, have something by the end of January. I know 2020 had its significant challenges, and maybe that your vision or your goals for 2020 were derailed and you never sought the goals that you wanted. Maybe you were hit economically or financially, or maybe your job was cut or eliminated due to COVID. What I want to say is that there is a possibility that you can make it this year despite what's happening with everything else around you. I'm a Christian man. I believe that if you follow the Word of God, you're obedient in what He's telling you to do, that He can keep you blessed even while the world around you may seem like they're falling apart. So what I want to do is I wanted to hit on 7 areas of which is called the Wheel of Life. If you've never heard of the Wheel of Life, it is written by the great leadership coach Zig Ziglar, and it covers 7 different areas of life. You've heard in a health class growing up, there's a social, a physical, and a mental side to your life. Well, I think it's a little more complex with that. I tend to side with Zig Ziglar to believe that there's actually 7 areas. The first one being spiritual. I believe that is the hub. I believe that that's the center of the wheel. I believe that it affects every other area of your life. If you're not good spiritually, it's going to affect every area of your life. But if you are neglecting the other 6 areas of your life in tandem, it's going to affect you spiritually as well. And so I have these in order, in no specific order, because you don't want to prioritize these areas of your life too extremely, or you're going to see that you're neglecting areas of your life. So 1 is spiritually. 2 is family. What type of goals do you have as a family, whether you are a single and you are looking at having extended family goals with the household that you grew up with, or if you're married and have kids and you want to start a new family goals. And I'll cover what some of mine are and just give you some ideas on how you can set some vision for the year as well. 3rd would be physical goals, and I break that down into 3 sub-areas as well. I am not a physical fitness guru at all. And so I try to keep this as simple as possible, because this is an area that I do need to grow in. It's an area that I probably neglect more than others just because it's easier for me to gain traction in other areas. But the 3 sub-areas of a physical life that I would break it down to is sleep. I believe sleep is very important. 2nd would be your diet. and the third would be exercise. Sleep, diet, exercise. And so developing some physical goals as well. Fourth would be financial goals. That ties into fifth would be your career goals. And your sixth would be social goals. And your seventh one would be mental goals. And so starting with the spiritual life, you can definitely give a spiritual component to different types of other areas as well. So if you're looking at it through the lens of the Spirit, as a Christian, basically, you could see family goals. If you're the head of the household, or maybe you are the mother in the household, or you're a child in the household, you play a role inside your family unit, and the family is the strongest ministry you're going to have, because there is no ministry that's stronger than a family. I'll say it again, there's no ministry that is stronger than a family. And so your family does need to have a priority in your life before you develop a public life at all, with your career, with any other thing in life. You got to make sure that your family life is in order. So having goals in that area as well. Physically speaking, there are spiritual goals that tie in with it. Your body's a temple. Paul said that I beat my body daily. He said that we run the race with endurance. There's definitely things that we do in our physical life to make sure that we're physically fit, because it affects us spiritually, very much so. And also you can develop things in your spiritual life that do affect you physically, such as fasting. And financially speaking, we want to be good stewards with our finances, and we also want to have giving goals as well. I want to exceed my giving goals for sure in the year 2021, further than any year that I've had. Career goals, you could also say this is as your vocation. We all know that your career doesn't define you. Your vocation, however, is more of a calling on your life and what the purpose is of what you're doing. Socially speaking, there is a spiritual component, a fellowship. And then with mental life, making sure that we have some form of Bible study, keeping our minds active as well with God's Word. So those are areas. And I'm just going to cover some things that I want to do in my own life. Bible reading every single day, 365 days a year. And I'm keeping myself accountable to this. Basically what I'm doing is I'm reading 4 chapters a day. It follows the Life Journal reading plan. And I took a twist to their journaling method. I don't do their SOAP journaling method. I do what's called the scone method. I add one more component. So the S stands for scripture, the C stands for context, the O stands for observation, the N stands for next steps, and the E stands for engagement. So basically, if you wanted to take a look at some more of what that looks like and how I plan and set that up, I already have an example over at my personal website, and you can go to toddthielen.com and check that out. Todd is pretty simple, Todd, and if any of you have ever watched the Minnesota Vikings, then you would see that Thielen is spelled just like it is on the back of the jersey, Thielen. I guess I am related to him, by the way. I believe my grandpa and my great-grandpa and his grandpa were cousins, but I've never met him. So it's not like he's giving me Vikings tickets or anything all the time. So daily devotions is a spiritual goal of mine. The second one would be praise, and I just want to develop worship leading a little bit more. I have a guitar, I can sing, but I definitely need to sharpen the skills with that. So I want to just practice one worship song a day every morning before I start my day. Just play a worship song. Okay, family goals. I want to go on vacation 2021. This last year, it was getting toward the end of the year. We hadn't gone on a family vacation yet. I understand COVID hit, and it was a goal of ours last year, so we decided to take one evening, I believe a month ago in November, and we went to South Dakota. We went to Mount Rushmore. We went to an indoor water park, and it was just a great experience for our kids. We planned activities along the way, just for like scavenger hunts for them to do. Every stop that we went to, we would hide a little treasure that you could find at like a pawn shop or something that you just wouldn't find at a store. And we would have Talissa and Titus look for it at every stop, and they loved it. So that was fun. And bi-monthly date night is a goal for our family. Basically what I mean by that is every other month I want to be able to go on a date with Emma, or have a daddy-daughter date with Talissa, or just have an outing with Titus doing something. Just every other month. I want to make sure that somewhere down the line I can expand that to more, but for right now I want to make sure that I'm at least doing it once every 2 months. Next, family devotions. I want to make sure that once a day, or I need to get more time specific with that goal. Make sure that I'm compressing my daily devotion down in a way where my kids and wife can understand it, and I'm presenting it to them. Okay, and then a family weekly meal. I gotta make sure that on my wife's days off, and my days off, when those come together, should be once a week, and we're having dinner together. I like listening to some maybe some classical or jazz music, and have a candle lit, and just have a good meal where no phones are out, and we're just having full family time, followed by like a movie afterwards. Titus is still a little bit early to play board games, but somewhere down the line I'd like to expand that as board games playing as well. Okay, going to physical. There's been times in my life where I have been better off physically. And I understand that juggling priorities might give it the reason why. When I was in high school, I was in wrestling, and as a single, it was a lot easier to go work out. Now that we are balancing the priorities of having 2 jobs and 2 kids at home, it's a little bit more of a challenge to get out and make sure that we're taking care of our bodies. So what I want to do, starting January 22nd of this year, I'm developing a no gluten, no sugar, and no dairy diet. Also making sure I'm taking MCT oil supplements, and also doing intermittent fasting between 2 p.m. Between 6. I messed up on my notes here. 6 p.m. to 2 p.m. Yeah, so basically as soon as it gets dark out, 6 p.m. I'm done eating. There's a 4-hour window that I'm doing every day where I'm eating. So I'm gonna eat my lunch at 2 p.m. and then I'm going to just eat for a good 4 hours, whatever I want really. It's probably just going to be veggies and meat, and high quality fats as well. I've done it before, and this isn't new. This isn't new territory to me. I did it for about a good 2 years between 2017 2019, and I lost about 40 pounds doing it. And it takes a while to get for your stomach and your tongue to get used to the new diet, but after a while, just like anything else, you begin to crave it if you're training your body well. Let's see, sleep. That's pretty easy. I'm just aiming for 6 hours a night. My son wakes me up notoriously, and I want that to stop. I want to fast for 21 days, starting today and ending the 22nd. Whether I do this, straightforward fasting, or if I'm just doing it from sun up to sundown, I just want to make sure that I'm doing some scriptural fasting. Exercise. I just got a gym membership. My good friend Travis talked me into it, and I want to be in there 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, doing some type of strength training. And then Tuesday, Thursdays, I want to do some type of cardio, whether it's riding bike or whether it's running. And then 1 day a week on Saturdays, I want to do some flexibility, whether it's yoga or Pilates, or just doing some static stretching, or just doing whatever I need to do to make sure that I'm increasing in a lighter workout day. Those are my physical goals. So thanks for hanging in there. We do have a few more areas, but I just want to remind you guys before we get any further that you can go to the website that is linked to this feed. There's my personal website, which is toddthielen.com, and that's going to carry more my personal devotions and is more of like a business card website. And then there's also what we do here in terms of the Academia podcast and some other goodies that are coming up. You can find that all at warpzoneu.com. And that's going to just kind of be the basis of operation of where I do things and where I produce content. Warp Zone, I'm a millennial. I used to play a lot of video games. You want to get from level 1 to level 4, you got to find it. You got to find out where it's at, and it's going to take you further faster. And that's what I want to do. I want to take you further faster. I want to take you from here to there. I'm going to help you take your kids from here to there to get where they need to go. Warp Zone. Warp Zone University is who we are. You can find us at warpzoneu.com. All right, so getting further into it, another goal that I have is the financial goals. I wanted to make sure that me and Emma have a joint spending account set up. We were doing everything individually before. It's just harder to budget, harder to balance. And so I want to make sure that I'm also caught up on all my consumer debt by December 2021. I want to make sure that the emergency fund that we do have is kept at the $1,000 level. A lot of the stuff that you can find, the goals that I'm setting, is you can find in the Dave Ramsey plan. But I'm also going to be covering within the next few weeks some other type of financial advice from other type of different classical authors as well, in keeping in step with producing wealth in your life. Rein in spending to live within our means. I'll be talking with that in a few weeks. Having a zero-based budget and making sure that our giving is surpassing our 2020 giving. You guys didn't see this, but my wife Emma's great. She snuck in some Starbucks when I was just a minute ago, so she's wonderful. All right, getting back to it. Career goals. I just got done working an 8-month stint at the Village Ranch in Cokato. And, all these different things, all these jobs that I have, I don't consider as my job, my career. And from January to April, I'll be back working at H&R Block in Litchfield. And these are just tent ministries. You've probably heard of Paul to raise funds. Paul, the missionary in the Bible. He raised funds and he built tents doing so. But every single, job that we have, it teaches you some life skill. But, I'm a firm believer that we're to be the head and not the tail. And so I do have some type of ideas that I want to do to launch more private type of business. And before I do that, I'm a firm believer in building your personal brand, even if you don't have a business. So one thing I'm doing this year, it's a 365 challenge. Yeah, you can probably be like, Todd, you're overwhelming me with stuff. Well, 365 challenge is something that I'm taking. And basically, I'm 365 days of the year, I'm going to produce some type of content. And that's just to work on my own personal brand before I develop a professional brand. And we have more of a product and we have more of a service that we are offering to our listeners. Basically, what we're doing right now is we're just producing content. You might be in a spot where it's reversed that. Maybe you do have a product and you do have a service, but you don't have any type of content marketing that's going out. I would encourage you to do the same thing. You think, wow, 365 days a year, I just don't have the time to do it. We all have time, and we all got to make sacrifices, and this is something that you need to do, and something that I need to do as well, if we're going to get anywhere. But that's a goal of mine, to be able to launch ourselves before I launch any type of sales with any type of products or any type of services. I want to make sure that I'm developing my personal brand long before that I've done that, and maybe that's just producing quality content to you 365 days of the year. So I'd like to really get some traction by June to do that, and I'd really like by August some of the curriculum stuff to take shape. And vocational goals, I always want to help out more with my local church. I go to church at the River at MSP Church, River MSP. It's in Hutchinson, Minnesota. Social goals. I want to limit my social media intake this year. And my phone has a tracker on it. I can see how long I've been on Facebook. I think today I've been on Facebook for 22 minutes. And sometimes, when I'm not looking at it, I can see that I've been on a lot longer than that. Sometimes I've been on 2 hours. There's one day I think last year was on for 5 hours out of the day. Some of you be like, that's nothing. That's rookie numbers. I'm on 14 hours a day. Shoot. Well, you need to look at yourself and reevaluate what your goals are. Because I think it's 99% of people consume more content than they produce. That's a goal of mine this year. I want to produce more than I'm consuming, and I'm limiting my social media time 30 minutes a day for personal use. Fellowship, I want to spend more time with other people, especially people that I go to church with. Something we're doing this year, you might have seen a Facebook post about it, but I'm going to be doing something called the Thielen Family Tour in 2021. This is also a family goal of ours. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to try once a week or twice a week to find somebody on my Facebook friends list that I haven't talked to in person for a long time. And I'm going to bring my family, or we're going to have like a kids play date. We're going to have some coffee, or maybe we'll grab, we'll have a sandwich. Basically, it's kind of, rebuking the idea that we have to stay locked down and get back to in-person living again. There's not a lot to do. Even still, a lot of stuff still shut down, and the things that are open, why would you want to, here's the thing. I'm going to break it down. A lot of the times when we engage in a good or a service in our economy, whether we're going to a movie theater or a hotel or a cruise, we're doing this sort of thing to escape from the 9-to-5 living. Maybe you just want to stay at a hotel at a weekend with a family and drive around. It's an escape. Maybe you want to go on a cruise. It's a week-long escape. And when you have to comply with a bunch of COVID restrictions in place, it doesn't feel like you're escaping. It just feels like more. It feels like you're constantly bombarded by an oppressive government, and that's exactly what's happening. And so one thing I'm doing in 2021 is I'm going to try to visit 20 to 25 different families and just have our kids meet new people. Going into the mental side, what I'm going to be doing is first starting with my kids. I'm going to be developing a customized kindergarten curriculum for Talissa, and I may or may not bridge in first grade with it, because I do think I could probably tackle both at once. Just think, if you're going to revisit all the same material in first grade, why not just go above and beyond right now? Why not just teach it a little bit more right now? I'm a firm believer that a kid could graduate high school before the 8th grade, and by the time that they are 18, they could already have a college degree. It's possible. I've already mapped it out, so there's already ways to do it where she could go to school, college, while taking post-secondary while she's 15 and 16 years old. So I'm going to be developing her curriculum more in depth, and I will be giving you progress on that, as well as coaching advice on how to develop your own kids' curriculum. That's going to take place between January and August. And then August, it's go time. I'm going to be sharing stuff on how it's going every single day. Another mental goal of mine is Bible study, and I'm just going to be taking once a week, maybe something that I'm learning in my devotions on Saturdays, and I'm going to be plugging in it a little bit deeper. I have some study materials, and we're going to just go a little bit deeper. And then, here it is, the reading list. This is what it came down to, the reading list. You may find my reading list at warpzoneu.com/list if you're interested. But my goal this year is to read 52 books in 52 weeks. Now, some of these books are longer, some are shorter, and some of them may take 4 days, whereas I think I have one that's going to take 30 days to read. If you're interested in what that one is, it is a biography on Andrew Carnegie. So I'm interested. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to this sort of stuff. I know I have a lot of books, and I counted them in December to see how many I have, and I have a lot more than 52 books. But a lot of them I haven't read them, and I continually want to buy more. So, I had a challenge in the past where I said, before I buy any new books, I got to read the ones I have. That didn't happen. But I split up the reading list this year to fiction and nonfiction alike. Different areas such as historical biography, things such as our founding fathers and the Revolution. I'm going to be covering stuff based on my Christian faith, apologetics. I'm going to be covering just devotional books in the Christian faith as well. Some personal finance books. Some books about entrepreneurship and starting business. Some fiction. some science fiction, some fantasy, some classics. I'm also going to be covering some stuff in psychology. And I'm really excited. It's all over the place. It really is. But I believe that, once again, if we're going to be teaching our kids, we need to be sharp. Our tools need to be sharp. We need to know what we believe in, especially if you're going to dive into being an entrepreneur. You got to be reading. You just have to do it. You need new ideas. When you read ideas, they're sparking that aren't your own. And then basically, the more and more do it, it's like reprogramming your mind how to think. And so then, you're used to this new idea engagement. That by the time that the book is down, your synapses are firing in new areas and your creative juices are flowing. So it's a must. And so the next month, I'm going to be covering 5 different books. And if you want to order some of these books online, I do have the links available on my website. Once again, it's www.warpzoneu, U is in university, so it's warpzoneu.com/list. The first book we're going to be reading, though, I'm just going to preview it. It's called The Law by Frédéric Bastiat, or as the English pronunciation, Frederick Bastiat. Okay, so The Law is a book about political philosophy. One thing that I would rather do than just do a drive-by shooting of today's current events and drive you down the echo chambers that you can see all over Twitter and Facebook, I would rather, instead of being reactive with politics, I would rather be proactive and maybe just teach you the principles behind what I think. Maybe I'll cover some stuff that's going on in the real world, maybe I won't. But starting January 4th, Monday, I will be kind of going over some of the stuff in this book. It's a really short book. It's 50 pages. It covers just some thicker stuff about what this guy believes in. He's a political philosopher. He believes in free market economics, and you should check it out. You should buy it, or you should check it out online if you want to follow along. If not, I'll break it down for you on Monday. But I also do want to cover every single podcast something about what I'm reading, because I believe it will value you as well. I believe that getting these books would value you. The second one I'm going to be reading is The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. Third is Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. The fourth is going to be The Believer's Authority by Kenneth Hagin. And the fifth one is going to be Dumbing Us Down by John Gatto. The order of books that I'm doing this year is going to be from shortest to longest. So, with that being said, the thickest books I'm reading is going to be at the end of the year, and I'm starting the year off with the smallest book, hence how thin it is. I'm going to be listening to some audiobooks as well. All the fiction ones are going to be audiobooks. So when I'm driving, I have something that I'm actually reading. I'm reading while I'm driving. And, I think most of the books that are audiobooks are actually based off movies. And I do that on purpose, especially if my kids are listening as well. Then if they want to see, some of the stuff, if they're curious on the movie, I can show that to them later. And I like how that carries over. I've always thought that was a really great teaching tool in teaching kids the similarities and differences between books and their adaptations. But the audiobooks that I'm going to be covering, I'm going through a huge Orson Scott Card kick this year. And I'm going to be going through the Ender's Game and Ender's Shadow series. The first 3 books of each, not all of them. Because there's a lot of books this year I'm doing. I'm going to be covering Alexandre Dumas, The Three Musketeers, and The Count of Monte Cristo. And I'm also going to be covering some Tolkien, the first Hobbit. No, there's only one Hobbit book. If you've seen too much of the movies, there's not 3 Hobbit books. There's 1 Hobbit book. And also I'm going to be doing the first Lord of the Rings book, Fellowship of the Ring. All right, thanks for hanging in there. Today I wanted to go over my book reading list really bad because I'm nerding out about it. And then the second one, I wanted to go over my 2021 vision. Whew. All right. With that being said, the reason why I did it all is I want you to have vision for the year. Maybe you don't want to develop a book reading list. Maybe you don't want to do the things that I am doing. But I want you to be able to maybe where you're at if you're not driving. Trust me, if you're not driving, keep your eyes open. But if you're not driving, close your eyes. Envision where you want to be 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. If money wasn't a problem, how you would want to spend your morning. If money wasn't a problem, if a job wasn't a problem, and just get an understanding of your senses and what's around you, your environment, and try to envision what that life is, that ideal life. If there was no worry or concern of finances, what would you be doing? What's the ideal job that you would have? And if it's not a job, if you have your own business, or if you want to set up your own platform, what does that look like? And then once you get a crisp and clear understanding of what it is that you want to do, how do you reverse engineer that so everything that you do in terms of baby steps is going to get you from where you're at now until there? And that's the basics of what Warp Zone U is. How do we get from here to there? And and I'm going to take you on that journey through this whole year. I'm going to post my goals. I'm going to post my reading list, because I, for one, want to stay accountable. And the more I'm producing content it's in view of the public eyes, the more I can say I did it. The more I can say that I'm following my own plan, following my own dreams and my own vision. Because life is short, and we want to have as much freedom as we possibly can have. And everything that I'm doing, from teaching my own kids into equipping you to teach your own kids, and how to set free, any type of imprisoned thinking with maybe it's just a higher degree of a stretch to get you into areas that you haven't thought of before, or you want to just enter a new regimen in your mind. I have other people that are stronger in the physical world. And in the physical goal, I should say, that's going to be pushing me physically this year, so I don't slide back, because my go-to, would be, going into these books, and I love doing it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but this is an area I want to stretch and grow in, and I want to present to you the information that I'm learning, as well as I want to make sure that I'm staying held accountable to the goals and dreams that I do have. I have some other stuff that's going to be happening this upcoming year. A lot of that stuff's not ready to be released yet. I'm still working on some of the tech stuff and some of the finer tunings of some of how that stuff's going to work. But as time goes on, I will be releasing some of those developments and some of those ideas to you. All right. Well, we are at the end of our very first podcast. It is New Year's Day. And I just want to thank you for if you've listened. Maybe you're in your car and you're listening on the podcast, or you're watching the YouTube version. I just want to thank you for bearing with us just through the technological aspect. I don't have the best camera, and I don't have the best microphone. But in time, we're going to be upgrading. We're going to be getting better. I have big dreams and big ideas for the year of where I want to see my. I have ideas of where I want to see myself in 10 years and 5 years, and I'll share that as time goes on. But for right now, I know where I need to be and what I need to do to get to the end of 2021, regardless of who's president, regardless of what's happening in the news. I feel that we can set our ideas, we can set our dreams up in a way where it should not matter. Because the trajectory of what we're doing is first off in the hands of God, and He's given us the ability to have wisdom to be able to keep adapting to the world that's around us. So if that's something that you're interested in as well, then, partner up with me. Help me figure out where this thing's going, and tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Until then, I just want to encourage you guys, you have yourself a wonderful day. God bless.